Good morning, students. Welcome to Mariam Manzoor English Learning Channel. Today we will talk about Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, poet and the playwright, was baptized on April 26, 1564 in Stratford upon Avon. Since his actual date of birth is not known, but his birthday is traditionally celebrated on April 23rd, which is ironically the date that he died in 1616. There is a small introduction of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, also spelled Shakespeare by name, Bard of Avon or Swan of Avon, baptized. Shakespeare occupies a position unique in the world literature. Other poets such as Homer and Dante and novelists such as Leo Tolstoy and Charles Dickens have transcended national barriers, but no writer's living reputation can compare to that of Shakespeare, whose plays written in the late 16th and the early 17th centuries for all the small temporary repertory theatre and are now performed and read more often in and more countries than even before. The prophecy of his great contemporary, the poet and dramatist Ben Jonson, that Shakespeare was not of an age but for all times has been fulfilled. When we were talking about the life of Shakespeare, although the amount of factual knowledge available about Shakespeare is surprisingly large for one of his stations in life, many find it a little disappointing, for it mostly gleaned from document of an official character, dates of baptisms, marriage, deaths, and burial wills, conveniences, legal processes, and payments by the court. These are the dusty details. There are, however, many contemporary allusions to him as a writer, and these added reasonable amount of flesh and blood to the biographical skeleton. William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor. He is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's eminent dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon. What about the early life of his Shakespeare? Shakespeare enjoyed a grammar school of a good quality, and the education there was free. The schoolmaster's salaries began paid by the borough. No list of people who were at the school in the 16th century has survived, but it would be absurd to suppose the of the town that did not send his son there. The parish register of the Holy Trinity Church shows that he was baptized, and his birth is traditionally celebrated on 23rd. His father, John Shakespeare, was a burgess of a borough who is 1565 was chosen an elder man, and in 1568 corresponding to mayor. He wrote many plays about comics, about history and tragedies. In plays, in comics, he wrote Tempest, Twelfth Night, and many more. In history, he wrote Henry IV Part 1, Henry IV Part 2, Henry V, Henry VI Part 1, Henry VI Part 2, Henry VI Part 3, Henry VIII, King John, Richard II, Richard III. In tragedies, he wrote many plays. Some of these plays' names are Hamlet, Julius Caesar, King Lear, Macbeth, Othello, Romeo and Juliet. Career in the life. The first reference to Shakespeare in the literary world of London comes in 1592 when a fellow dramatist, Robert Greene, declared in a pamphlet written on his deathbird. There is an upstart crew, beautified with our feathers, that with his tiger's heart wrap in a player's hide pose, he is well able to bombast out a blank verse as the best of you, and being an absolute in his own conceit, the only shake scenes in our country. He wrote many sonnets, 154 sonnets he wrote. The most famous include sonnet 18 with opening line, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" and sonnet 130, which begins, "My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun." His private life is very difficult. Shakespeare had little contact with officialdom apart from walking dressed in the royal livery as a member of King's Men at the coronation of King James I in 1604. No letter written by Shakespeare have survived, but a private letter to him happened to get caught up with some official transaction of the town Stratford, and so has been preserved in the borrowed archive. It was written by one Richard Kenry and dressed him from the Bell Inn in the Carter Lane, London, whither he had gone from Stratford on business. On one side of the paper is inscribed, "To my loving good friend and countryman Mr. W.M." means Mr. William Shakespeare. His full name was, "Deliver these." Apparently, Quenry thought his fellow Stratfordian a person to whom he could apply for the loan of $30, a large sum in Elizabeth times. Nothing further is known about the transaction. His documentation, Shakespeare's family or friends, however, were not content with a simple gravestone, and within a few years, a monument was erected on the wall, chancel wall. It seems to have existed by 1623. It epitaph written in Latin and inscribed immediately below the bust attributes Shakespeare the worldly wisdom of Nestor, the genius of Socrates, and the poetic art of Virgil. This apparently was how his contemporaries in Stratford upon Avon wished their fellow citizens to be remembered. And you see, Shakespeare's will made on March 25, 1616 is a long and detailed document. It entailed his quite ample property on the male heirs of his elder daughter Susema. Both his daughters were then married, and he died on April 23, 1616. No name was inscribed on his gravestone in the chancel of the parish church of Stratford upon Avon. Instead, these lines, possibly his own, appeared: "Good friend, for Jesus' sake forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spears these stones, and can't be he that moves my bones." That are the words. That were the words written on the grave of the Shakespeare. The tributes of his colleagues. The memory of Shakespeare survived long in the theatrical circles, for his plays remained a major part of the repertory of the King's Men until the closing of the theatres in 1642. The greatness of the Shakespeare great contemporaries in theatre. Ben Jonson had a good deal to say about to William Drummond of Hawthorne. Then in 1619 he said that Shakespeare wanted art, but when Johnson came to write his splendid poem prefixed to the folio edition of Shakespeare's plays in the 1623, he rose to the occasion with the string words of praise, triumph. "My Britain, thou hast won to show, to whom all scenes of Europe homage owe." He was not of an age but for all time. Besides, almost retracting his earlier gibe about Shakespeare's lack of art, he gives testimony that Shakespeare's personality was to be felt by those who knew him in his poetry, that the style was the man. Johnson also reminded his readers of the strong impression the play had made upon Queen Elizabeth I. The King James I at court performances. James 1. Sweet swan of Avon, what a sight it were to see thee in our waters yet appear and make those fights upon the banks of Thames that so did take Eliza and our James Shakespeare seems to have been affectionate terms with his theatre colleagues. Shakespeare was a poet and a dramatist also. He changes the language and poetic conventions and dramatist traditions his poetry have. Theatrical conditions of William Shakespeare means in Shakespeare's day there were little time for group rehearsals and actors were given the words of only the own parts. The crucial scenes in the Shakespeare's plays therefore are between two or three characters only or else are played with one character dominating a crowded stage. Most female parts were written for young male actors or boys, so Shakespeare did not often write big roles for them or keep them actively engaged on stage for long time, lengthy periods. Writing for the clowns of the company, who were important popular attractions in any play, presented the problem of allowing them to use their comic personalities and tricks and yet have themselves the immediate interest of theme and action. The dating of Shakespeare's plays was here over here. You can learn from this topic. And Shakespeare plays and poems of William Shakespeare, there are many more. I am providing this on my channel and you can learn from this because it is more lengthy and my video will be more lengthy, that I am not reading all these. The poems of William Shakespeare are these plays of meter and letters are they. Day after day I will post many plays. These are comics, history and tragic. I will explain here. And married life. William Shakespeare married Annie Hathaway in November 1582, and they remained married until Shakespeare's death. At the time of their marriage, William was 18, while Annie was 26 and pregnant with their first child. William Shakespeare and his wife Anne had three children. The eldest, Susanna, was baptized on 26th May 1583. They also had twins, Judith and Hamnet, baptized on 2nd February 1585. The Shakespeare had four grandchildren who all died without heir, so there are no direct descendants of his line today. Hamnet died at the age of 11 and was buried in Stratford upon Avon on 11 August 1596. The cause of his death is unknown. On 5th June 1607, Shakespeare's eldest daughter Susanna married Dr. John Hall and a distinguished physician there. Their daughter Elizabeth was baptized on 21 February 1608. His other daughter Judith married Thomas Queenie Wintner in Stratford on February 10 February 1616. On 21st March 1660, Shakespeare revised and signed his will. On 23rd April, his presumed birthday, he died aged 52. On 25th April, he was buried at Holy Trinity Church in Stratford. The grave does not bear his name, merely this warning rhyme: good friend, of Jesus' sake, forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Bless the man that spares these stones, and crushed be he that moves my bones. There was the small chapter I wrote on Shakespeare's life, his married life, his achievements, his work in his life. Thanks a lot for bearing me during this lecture.